So this model shows the Peverell Castle as it may have looked around 1300. It's set on a high hill, and it offered commanding views across the Hope Valley. So if this was 1300 and I had a drone, this is what it would look like. Peveril Castle was established on this site soon after the Norman conquest of 1066. The castle stood on a high hill overlooking the Hope Valley and a deep cave, the Peak Cavern. Contrary to what you might think, being how it's way up here on this hill and it has a fantastic position, Peverell Castle was used more as a base for hunting and administration than as a military fortress. Its only known military engagement was in 1216 when the king's chosen constable or commander was forced to besiege his own castle in order to take up his post. In the 16th century, Peverell Castle was neglected and fell into disrepair, and they really just apparently they had no use for it at all. If you were a urban explorer in the 16th century, you could have explored this abandoned castle. Its popularity was revived centuries later, though, when visitors were drawn by its historical associations and by the beauty of the ruin in its landscape. I mean, you can see it from this town down here. It sits high above the town. So obviously not this wooden structure, but this right here is what is left of the 12th century gates, the 12th century entrance that was right here. This would have been just really as a footpath to be able to come to the castle on foot. The main entrance is back over here on the other side of the bailey. I believe it's these, I don't know if it's this gate or not. We'll have to see. But really this is all that's left. There would have been buildings all throughout here, households. There would have been, a bakery, kitchen, a chapel of some sort. And look at the view that the castle would have had overlooking this town. This is the 12th century town. The town of Castleton. Very beautiful little quaint town now. I'm sure it was back then too. It's crazy that this tower is really the only structure that has survived. And you can see it from miles. So this is what is left of the Great Hall, probably built in the 13th century, adding to an older set of buildings further up the hill. It was a large rectangular room covered by a timber roof. The hall contained a grand fireplace immediately behind the king, so at least he would enjoy some warmth. The fireplace had a hood supported on miniature stone columns, and those carved bases still survive today. Awesome. And more of that herringbone. You can see it all within this wall. And these walls are thick too. Jeez. At least 4 feet thick. Oddly enough, even though this had such an amazing position up here, it wasn't really used as a military fort. It was mostly government governing the town below, the local area. The local administration worked here. Look at this. So there were several buildings in this castle that were served by garter robes or latrines. This garderobe was probably built in the 13th century as part of the range of private chambers that ran along this western side of the castle. The stone shelf supported a wooden seat with a central hole from which waste emptied into the deep peak cavern gorge immediately outside the castle wall. So yeah, it's just, went out and down, as you could say. Wow, look at this. Awesome. So right here, right next to this tower, is this gate. And you can't, it's maybe hard to see, but it goes down a bit to the other side there. You can actually see the trees. So there was a wooden bridge here in the Middle Ages. And this was easier for the carts than the steep path running up along, coming back up to the castle in that dip. So there was some sort of a wooden bridge here, but obviously nothing like that survives, and nothing over there survives either. This is unbelievable. Man, that is cool. To be able to touch history like that, that is so cool. So this tower is actually called the Keep, built in 1174 on the orders of King Henry, who reigned from 1154 to 1189. The keep dominated the main entrance to Peverell Castle. Tall enough to be visible for miles around, it was a powerful symbol of the authority of the king. And by the way, if you think I know all this stuff about the Peverell Castle, it's because there's a bunch of plaques here, so I'm really just reading the plaques. Okay, coming into the gate. This is the main event here. Curious to see what this looks like. Obviously, these stairs would not have been here, not like this at least, but that does look like an original entrance. Wow. So the owners of Peveril Castle did not live in this keep. It's actually a pretty small one. They lived in buildings beside it. This keep may have basically just been intended for ceremonies and administration. In fact, just a year before this was built, there was some sort of little military scuffle, and so they may have built this as a like a safe place, like a place to kind of hide out during some sort of a siege. But because of the size of it and the fact that there was no obvious signs of a kitchen or anything like that, and because of its small size, it probably wouldn't have lasted long for them to hide out here during some sort of a siege. But that's an idea that's why this was built. Also, it just gave the castle this commanding look. I mean, you could see this tower, this keep, for miles. Wonder if this was another latrine. Yes, it was. As you can tell by the obvious proof. Yeah. And if you look up there, you see those triangular ridges up there. That was basically the original roof. So that would have been like a wood roof, and then the parapet would have been would go above that. So that's what the typical castle look would have gone above the wood roof. Actually, you can see here. So very small keep. Oh yeah, so the stairs, look, this obviously brings you down there, but this would have gone up. Look how, wow, absolutely destroyed these things are. They're just totally weathered away. And it would have brought you up there. No way to get up there now. Amazing. And down the typical castle stairs here. Down into the dungeon. I'm just kidding, it wasn't a dungeon. There was no dungeon here. Awesome. These steps. So that's restored, and that is unrestored. Change the settings here for you. There you go. I'd love to get up there, but I can't. So that was the Great Hall. That's where we were. And the kitchen was down there as well. And then this was the chapel. There's not much left. Just these stone structures here. So there you go, quick tour of Peverell Castle in the Castleton town or village in England. Awesome place. Beautiful views. As the British say, quite lovely.